earth-based spirituality is a deep recognition that what is holy and what is sacred is all around us. It's not just up there. You know, it's all around us. It's the breath of life that's been breathed into all of creation.
Welcome to the Infinite Earth Body Podcast, where we talk about bodies, healing, pleasure, and share stories of embodiment on Earth. Hi, I'm your host, Maya, and I'd like to start by taking a few moments to ground, root into our connection to the Earth, call in the support of our most benevolent ancestors and guides, and set the intention for this shared space of connection to be dedicated to the liberation of all beings. I'm so excited to welcome our guest today. MawuLisa Thomas-Adeyemo is a Louisiana-born, community-based healing midwife, somatic bodyworker and embodiment coach, song weaver, lover of nature and spirit, and a lifelong student of the healing arts. MawuLisa weaves together the healing technologies of Ayurveda, somatics, earth-based wisdom traditions, and her ancestral inheritances of sound and touch to heal and transform the impacts of colonization, anti-Blackness, gender oppression, and sexual violence for herself and others. For almost a decade, as director of counseling, MawuLisa offered her heart and talents to the lineage of San Francisco Women Against Rape, training and mentoring advocates and peer counselors, and supporting sexual assault survivors to heal and reclaim their agency, power, and pleasure. In the past 2 decades, she opened countless doors and pathways of somatic healing, embodiment, and leadership development for social environmental justice warriors and politicized healers through her service as a lead teacher, bodywork practitioner, and embodiment trainer with BOLD, Black Organizing for Leadership and Dignity, and with Generative Somatics and Strozzi Institute. MawuLisa is currently finding her passion, pleasure, and growth edges in studying and practicing biodynamic craniosacral bodywork, mentoring somatic practitioners, stewarding land, redistributing stolen wealth, singing in choirs and community, facilitating grief rituals, decolonizing love, and bringing heaven to earth as an initiated Diviner Orisha Priest. MawuLisa, welcome to the Infinite Earth Body Podcast.
Thank you. It's so amazing to be here. Thank you for doing this podcast. It's an amazing topic and important work. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how is your body feeling today?
Well, mostly good. I just came out of a little bit of a cooking tornado. So I have some fried rice on the stove that felt really good to make. And, you know, got a little haircut today. So I'm feeling good, but I can feel myself at the end of the day and like, okay. Yeah, but overall, I'm feeling good. I just got to be in the space of facilitating a grief ritual this past weekend with Mama Lula up at the Susu farm. And that is still just resonating so deeply in my soul for the work that we got to do there, the space that we got to hold, and all of the transformation that was available for folks on the other side of laying their grief down in the presence of community and with the support of ancestors. So it was potent, and I can still feel myself like riding high on that.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like really deep, powerful work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is your body desiring in this moment?
I think it wants a bath. It wants a warm bath. And a little bit of food after this would be wonderful. And a walk, because I haven't had my daily stroll yet. So I'm excited for that moment of just being able to move my body now that the sun has calmed down. This is actually my favorite time of day to walk.
Do you want to take a break and go for a walk and come back?
No, not at all. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have that much light left.
Oh, I love it in the dark.
Oh,
I'm the one that has Trenda gifted us with some incredible little headlamp hats.
Ooh.
So I love night walking.
Oh, wow.
And I love living on land that it just feels cozy and safe and delicious to do that night walking.
Wow,
I love
okay.
night walking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what does healing mean to you?
Wow. Fundamentally, I'm going to pull on a quote from this person, Stephen Levine, from his book Unattended Sorrow, as an entry point into what healing means to me. But I love this quote that says, "Healing is not the absence of pain, but rather the ability to meet the pain with mercy instead of loathing." So I feel like healing is fundamentally that space that we get to arrive into where we feel more of a sense of wholeness, more of a sense of deep, deep, deep self-acceptance. I think a lot of the places where we struggle in our diseases is where we don't accept ourselves, the core of ourselves, who we are, our personal genius, our purpose, and all of the brilliant adaptations that we've had to come up with living inside of a system of fuckery promoted by colonization and capitalism and all of the things. So that's some of the ways that I would talk about healing. I believe that, healing is being able to address those places where there's been harm, where we have been separated from ourselves, from each other, from Pachamama, and that move of coming back into connection with self, with each other, and with Pachamama in harmonious and liberatory ways. I really feel that as something that undergirds this concept of healing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What have been some of the most important parts of your personal healing journey?
I think I'm still in it, and I will be to the day that I die. But some potent parts of my healing have been, honestly, my ongoing work of decolonizing has been a rich pool of healing for me, reclaiming who I am as an indigenous being, reclaiming who I am as a woman of many lineages, of African lineage, of First Nations lineage, of European lineage, and having all of that become less and less of a war inside of me and more of a harmony inside of me. Has been one of the healing projects that I've been on. I feel like I've been on a healing project of decolonizing spiritually. I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and that came with some beautiful things and also some really rough places in being pulled into a religious institution where I could not find myself in the reflection of divinity. And it's been a big part of my healing journey in recovery from that, and in this process of decolonizing and re-indigenizing myself, and then bringing the communities that I love and that love me and that I work with along with me, and always in collaboration with others. I think there's very little that I do and offer to the world solo. Yeah, that's what I'd say to that.
Mm-hmm. And what does embodiment mean to you?
I love this word. It's gotten very popular these days. Embodiment. One way that I feel this word embodiment is returning to this place where we get to be literally the perfect portal between heaven and earth. I think that's one aspect of embodiment. I think that embodiment can look like when we're able to line up our values and our vision and our actions. And those all get to line up and be the same. I feel like we're embodied when we're able to do something, anything, even under pressure. Even under pressure, when it's in there, when it's like deeply muscle memory, when it's like something that is able to just be at hand for us or come out and through us, even in increased amounts of pressure. Because usually it's the pressure that reveals what's embodied and what's not. You know, we all run around with some great ideas, some great visions, some great values. I want to be like this. I believe in this. I want to walk this way. I want to be connected to people in this way. And then pressure. Life's pressures come and hit, and that really shows what we have embodied and what we don't have embodied. The principles that are able to come through our actions under pressure is one way that I hold embodiment. And then I've also been in this inquiry internally about what it means to embody divinity. And I think that is one thing I can thank my Jehovah's Witness upbringing for, is really centralizing my relationship to spirit. And I feel like there is also this deep inquiry inside of me about what is it to embody divinity? What is it to show up for and to the purpose that I was born for? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get into your work supporting other people through healing and embodiment?
Yes, through healing. That found me early. I think pretty fresh out of college. I was in New Mexico in the desert, College of Santa Fe, which is now closed. And I found myself, ironically, working. I was actually selected. It was such a wild, random thing, but someone actually handpicked me to run this program out of this rape crisis center, the Santa Fe Rape Crisis Center. And I was asked to step into supporting youth to embody something different than what was handed to them by homophobia, by sexual violence, by a culture of bullying and domination. So that was sort of my first touch into healing, aside from like, I love to put my hands on my friends and make them feel better, or I love to be, you know, the one that my friends come to and talk to, and I can actually offer them a sounding board or guidance or advice for how to move through hard things. So in some ways, it's a very old part of me. Like, I feel like as a child, I had a very deep impulse for relieving suffering that, you know, would show up as easily or quickly as like the guy cutting the grass outside, and I'm like, it's hot and humid and this dude's sweating balls. How can I like make the coldest, nicest glass of lemonade to help relieve his suffering? So really this impulse around relieving suffering that I just feel is so deep and core to who I am really informs the ways that I move through the world and want to support healing for others. So then going back to the rape crisis work, I began shepherding that program, YODA, Youth Organizing Diversity for All. I love that the kids named the acronym YODA, which was formerly GLIF, Gay Lesbian Youth Preventing Homophobia. And these programs were designed to go into schools and interrupt the patterns of oppression and bullying that were happening with kids that was, creating more trauma and oppression within school culture. And that was such a rewarding project. And then I had a child and realized in the community in Santa Fe that I needed to bounce because we were culturally starving. There were not a lot of folks of African descent in Santa Fe. It was, a very gentrified city at the time. And so I moved to the Bay and saw San Francisco Women Against Rape as the location of where I wanted to go to and wanted to do youth ed work there. And the woman who hired me, the ED at the time, was like, we want someone local for the San Francisco Unified School District who knows about the San Francisco Unified School District and can really flow easily and from a familiar place inside of that system. But we think you'd be great for the counseling program. So I ended up being invited into the role of director of counseling at San Francisco Women Against Rape, SF4. And that was an amazing journey into supporting women, trans folks, men, everyone who walked through those doors from healing from the impacts of sexual violence and rape. And that was some holy work. It was some hard work, but I'm really grateful for the ED who had a vision about how to do that level of emotional labor with beautiful infrastructure in place for break and rest, and a schedule that allowed us to replenish ourselves at the well, even as we bore witness to the intensity of that work. And we really worked from a resilient based place. Like, I just remember some of the best parts of that job, in addition to doing all the intakes and matching survivors that came in with peer counselors, supporting them in getting advocacy and resources. We would do these amazing community building events like Artists Against Rape or Walk Against Rape, where we would have folks, come on stage who had written stories of surviving sexual violence and be able to use their voice and put that out, and held in a large community the bravery of what it takes to come forward and speak about some of those things as a way that they could engage their healing in community. So that was one of my earliest expressions of being in healing work. And then the embodiment work found me later as I was working at SF4. Generation 5 was upstairs from me in the women's building on the 4th floor. Generation 5 was this organization about whose mission was to end child sexual abuse in 5 generations. And so we had some shared vision about addressing sexual violence and doing community organizing around that. And I went to a few trainings and was just I'm like, what are these people doing? Like, this is amazing. But what I witnessed was a potent way of, all the things we try to be with in verbal space, be within cognitive space, and really taking that healing deep, deep down into the level of the body. And what is it that our muscles and tissues have inherited? What are the things that we do unconsciously in our bodies without thinking about it? How do we bring more awareness to that? How do we open and disrupt those old patterns in the body? And then how do we practice deliberately and intentionally with new practices that actually serve who it is we're trying to become and what it is we're wanting and longing to do and manifest in our lives? So that shit made sense to me. I was like, you're on to something. And this was Stacey Haynes. I met Stacey Haynes back then, and it was just like, I'm really compelled by this work, and just totally dove in and ended up spending about 16 years in teaching studentship and practice with Generative Somatics, which was an organization about bringing these transformative embodied leadership and healing skills to our justice warriors, to movement folks, to change makers, to organizers, to activists, and also to continue to equip politicized healers with these tools to support people in these transformational and healing processes. So that's kind of the evolution of much of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember soon after meeting you, just after, over some morning coffee, you gave me a whole training of understanding like the embodied ways that trauma is in my body after, years of talk therapy.
Yes.
Kind of address, like just so quickly I had a whole understanding of trauma. And so you've been such an important part of my own embodied healing journey. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah. And what you say is so real, because at the Rape Crisis Center, I started to integrate this work into how I was working with survivors, and people would come to intakes, and literally after an hour or 50-minute intake was like, I got more out of this fucking intake than I did out of 5, 7, 10, 20 years of talk therapy. And when I just kept getting that feedback over and over and over again, it really like solidified something in me of like, no, this shit is powerful. This is effective. And this is creating openings for transformation like nothing that I've ever seen before. And it was all about literally working at the level of the body. We live in such a culture that is head centric, it's like you hear it in the language, it's like head of the class, head of this, the head of head of that, head ninger and everything, it's head like this. We live in I think therefore I am. That's what we've inherited, in this culture. And it's like, that's only a third of our wisdom center. We have a third here in the heart brain and a third here in the gut brain, and all of that in completion. When we tap into all of that, we literally have the capacity to be brilliant Jedis out here. There's so much more available to us when we are leaning into the integration of the head brain and the heart brain and the gut brain. And I just got to see the magic and the mystery and the wonder of that unfolding with the people that I got to work with over so many years inside of this methodology and way of working somatically. Yeah.
And you said earlier how the center that you were working at really had space for rest and recovery as healers. How do you hold space for other people's trauma and still maintain just your joy and not get bogged down by it all?
Yeah, there's been many iterations of refinement of that over time. And I feel like at SF4, Nina Joseph really anchored us into a practice of like, we're going to do this work 4 days on and 3 days off. Fuck this 5-day a week, 9 to 5 schedule. That is not sane. So in that moment, it was her vision of like, how do we work 32 hours and get paid as if we work 40 hours? So a 32-hour full-time equivalent schedule. And that really made sense to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, 4 days on, 3 days off, And I just remember that building the practice in me of like, okay, Mondays, any of the normal weekend rest activities, I'll handle that on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday is completely for me. It's like, what does this body want to do right now to restore itself? Is it a walk at the ocean? Is it laying out in a park? Is it nude sunbathing? Is it cooking really good food for myself? Scratch cooking. And let me just give a plug in overall health terms of truly scratch cooking, slow food, local, organically sourced health regime. I just can't say enough about that. I can't say enough about that transition for me of slowing down enough to where maybe I'm feeding myself 5 days a week and maybe letting the world feed me 2 days a week, as opposed to what it was when you're in the grind of work and the world is feeding you 5 days a week, where you don't know what the fuck is going in those ingredients really. You don't really know the practices that are, you hope, but you don't really know what's going on. And we know the health impacts of fast food, like it's been studied and talked about forever. So I just want to digress to that and give a plug for slow food cooking. But I want to fast forward now and really give a lot of props to Dr. Gerald Robinson. She was the first person that looked at me, took a notice of the kind of work that I was doing and the many, many levels that I was working on psychologically, emotionally, mentally, bodily, spiritually. And she was like, with everything that you got going on, you might want to think about having just 2 clients a day. I was like, what? What do you mean 2 clients a day? I already had slowed down immensely, and I'm like, oh, I only see 5 clients a day, which is way scaled down from the other models that are like, we're cranking out 7 to 14 to who knows how many. But it was that moment of really hearing her in that, and like, okay, what would it take to organize my life around working with 2 clients a day? And that's been radical. It's like, there's still other things to do. There's computer work and emails and all the other things, but I've really tried to hold myself to a practice of seeing 2 clients a day. And that schedule had allowed me, for the first time in my life, even though I was teaching about it and telling other people to do it, for the first time in my life, I got to actually cultivate a morning practice, a daily morning and evening ritual for myself, where I was literally taking care of myself all the way around the mesa, so to speak, my physical well-being with, my little warm-up and Qigong practice, my 13 joint warm-up and my Qigong. And then finding myself for the first time in a regular practice of sitting, meditation, ancestor reverence and veneration, and just giving myself that space to just be, 20 minutes, 15 minutes in stillness, to just gather myself for the day. Those have been incredible practices that, committing to 2 clients a day gives you space to weave that in. I'll return back to the scratch cooking and gives me space and time to make a delicious fucking meal from scratch that is medicine. It's medicine. I've curated all of the ingredients. Thank you, Ayurveda, for, the wisdom of knowing what my body type is and what are the properties of different vegetables and spices, and how to balance my own body alchemy with the food that I bring in. Grateful for the herbal studies that I dipped into to give me resource and understanding about that. So yeah, that's what I have to say to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember you talking about your path in being a trauma whisperer.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that all humans have trauma to varying degrees?
I think that all humans, I could answer this in many ways. I think that all humans have had to learn to adapt to oppressive conditions under the umbrella of colonization and slavery and patriarchy and all the other streams that oppressive conditions find their way to the people, to communities, to individuals. So I think we all have adaptations that we've had to, brilliant adaptations that we've had to undertake in order to survive the crooked room that we have to live in, the fuckery that we have to face and deal with on a daily, the poverty that these greedy systems force upon our communities. And inside of those conditions, yeah, there's a lot of trauma. And don't think for a second that the people that are creating those conditions, they're also traumatized too. It's like, so I feel like the very way that we live, disconnected from the earth, disconnected from our bodies, in order to crank it out in like backbreaking labor, 9 to 5, you gotta be disconnected from the needs of your body. If you were, you would have tapped out on that shit a long time ago. And then for the paycheck to feed our families and to feed our children and to make everything work, we do what we have to do. We sacrifice what we have to sacrifice, and we bend ourselves to fit into the crooked room. And I want to, I can't think of the woman's name, Michelle, Sister Citizen. She wrote the book Sister Citizen, Melissa Harris Perry. There's a chapter in that book that talks about this concept of the crooked room and how we will crook ourselves to fit in the crooked room versus acknowledging that, oh, the room is crooked, and how do I keep my dignity, my straightness, my balance, my cohesion inside of the crooked systems that we live inside of. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think lots of people are traumatized, and I think that we also have hardwired in our DNA. We know resource, we know what it is to come together and sing and how that makes us feel. We know what it is to come together and have an improv silly jam session and what that does to our spirits. We know what it is to like play with each other, and co-regulate our nervous systems through those practices. So that's in us as well. So we are, in some ways, if we've had to survive and live inside of the project of colonization, I think it's left our mark on us. And also, we have a lot of resilience and resource that we pull from, that's been informed by billions of years of evolutionary wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you've really helped me understand how much what we call our trauma patterns are really part of our body's wisdom, and that in order to move past them, we have to really thank them and honor them.
Yes.
And that's been such a huge part of my own healing journey.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little more about that?
Yeah. In somatic work, we talk about it as conditioned tendencies, but I really like the parts work framework for it. And I've kind of adapted some of the language of parts work. And I think about those strategies as our warriors. They're our warriors. They're like the generals in our army that are like, you know what? Some crazy conditions are happening out there. And in order to help you maintain a sense of safety, a sense of dignity, and a sense of connection and belonging, we're going to implement these adaptations. We're going to implement these strategies that are ultimately just out here trying to keep you safe, dignified, connected, and feeling belonging. I don't know what entity doesn't soften when they're acknowledged and thanked for the hard work that they're trying to do to keep you safe. If it works for outwardly, it works inwardly. And to give those parts, quote unquote, in us the recognition, I see you. I see how you've been trying to help me adapt to the fuckery that I'm faced with. I see and acknowledge and appreciate the ways that you've been trying to take care of my safety all along, whether that was emotional safety or physical safety or financial safety or sexual safety, whatever safety. Thank you. Thank you, warrior. Thank you, adaptation. You're brilliant. Thank you. And it is from that place of gratitude and recognition that that energy gets to like, oh, you see me. I mean, who doesn't relax and take a deep breath and move back into themselves when they're not seen and acknowledged and offered gratitude for the hard fucking work they're out here trying to do? So, in somatics, we call that blending with our safety shapes, blending with our conditioned tendencies, looking at them and befriending them and being like, thank you. Thank you for helping me survive. And from that place of recognition, it begins a process of helping that contraction to relax and soften and make room for a different intervention, to make room for, oh, let's figure out this particular need that you were trying to meet. Are there other ways that we can get that need met? You know, maybe it's about what are the requests that you get to make in your life and to the people that you love or the people that you collaborate, coordinate, or work with. What are the requests that you get to make? What are the boundaries that you get to have? What are the no's that you get to, what are the insists that you get to make to take care of what that warrior was trying to do for you? There are other ways to generate our safety from the inside out, as opposed to waiting for the conditions outside of us to become safe enough. You know, we have to learn to generate our safety from the inside out, which we do through, you know, the things that we can ask for and the things that we say no to, and move out of our lives. And also knowing how to ask for help and getting support and allyship to do things that one person probably shouldn't be out here trying to do by themselves to begin with. Those learning how to embody those skills helps our warriors to relax. They're like, oh, you know how to, you're doing okay. You're doing okay driving the car. Okay, I can get in the back seat and chill and watch the scenery go by. You know, that's what we can do with those warriors that are those adaptations that have been trying to take care of those things for us. As we learn and embody those new skills, it supports that contraction shaping to just kind of relax and let go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you say the personal or individual healing journey is connected to the collective movement for liberation and collective healing?
It's completely connected. It's completely connected. The more we do our individual healing work, the stronger we can show up in those collective endeavors. And then what we are able to accomplish in collective bodies is the only force that we can lean into to shift the oppressive conditions. Like, we need masses of people working together, organizing, and coming in mass to push back against the powers that be, to create change in our communities, to attempt to walk those crazy roads of addressing legislation. Oh my God, you know, like, we need masses of people to be able to do that. And then, so it's a both and project. Like, we can never, you know, speak to the supremacy of one over the other. It all needs to happen. It all needs to happen. It's kind of like we got to build the ship and sail in it at the same time. You know, we have to do our personal healing work and then recognize that we don't shift the conditions that are creating our dis-ease without getting together, coming together in groups and collectives to build power and shift those conditions. Like, they both have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you were talking about, embodiment is becoming more of a trendy word now.
Mm-hmm.
And somatics, I think a lot of people are more familiar with that word, but can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Somatics?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's one of the best words that Western culture has to describe the full seeing of ourselves as being comprised of a physical body reality, an emotional body reality, a mental body reality, and a spiritual body reality. That for the sake of our wholeness, all of it has to get addressed. I love the Avatar, The Last Airbender, as an example or a metaphor rather for that. To be an avatar, it's about mastering all four elements. And I feel like for us to be centered in our lives and moving like Jedis out here, we need to be tending to our physical well-being in addition to our emotional well-being and our spiritual well-being and our mental well-being. And somatics is, I think, the word in, English that closest, I think the word originally comes from a Greek word soma, which means the mind, body, spirit, and its living wholeness is a rough translation of that. But it's really looking at ourselves as not a bag of mechanical flesh and muscle and tissue that just carries our smart head around, that this is an integrated and whole system that is comprised of a physical muscle and bone reality, but it's also comprised of a spirit, a spiritual reality, a breath of life that's been breathed into us. It also has a mental component to it, our precious minds, and it also has an emotional body component to it. And if we're going to be in the project of healing, we have to address all of that. We have to work with it as a whole, because that's what it is. You can't separate that. We're not those things separated out. It comprises all of who we are. So that is some of the roots of the word soma, somatics, and yeah, what I've come to understand its meaning to be.
Mm-hmm. How would you say earth-based spirituality has been part of your journey in social justice and liberation work?
Yes. I really feel like in my social justice work, I just think part of what we're recovering from is the realities that get created when we are disconnected from the health and wellness of this planet. We are sitting in the tremendous impact of climate crisis, of years and years and years and years and years of just exploitive digging and fracking and this and that has created conditions where our planet is rapidly in a destruction path, and I think I feel like the only way we're allowed to continue to turn a blind eye to that is when we're walking around disembodied. When we're walking around disembodied, when we're walking around not actually connected to the needs of our body that actually rely on a healthy functioning ecosystem for us to get our needs met, for us to get healthy food, for us to have clean water, for us to have the medicine that we need that the earth so fucking abundantly provides. I feel all of that connected. And I feel like, people are the residents on this planet. We are the stewards on this planet. And I feel like we've inherited, the Christian worldview of having dominion over the earth, when actually I think that word was mistranslated in the Bible. And like maybe it should have been more like, what is it to have stewardship over the resources, and not to center ourselves as the center of everything, but we are just one being on this planet that is working in concert with everything else for harmony and balance that's going to benefit us 7 generations from now and beyond. So I don't really understand how to do social justice work without bringing that earth-based spirituality awareness, because, otherwise we are inheriting, when we die, maybe we're going to go to heaven, or are we going to get our technology right and go live on Mars, like, or whatever. I don't know how to answer that more plainly. I'm just like, it makes perfect sense. Like, those things can't be separated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For people who might not be as familiar, could you describe a little bit about what earth-based spirituality means to you?
To me, earth-based spirituality is a deep recognition that what is holy and what is sacred is all around us. It's not just up there. It's all around us. It's the breath of life that's been breathed into all of creation. It is the wisdom of the root system out here, as I'm pointing to this amazing forest that's behind us. It is, how birds know how to fly in formation, how the intricacies of an ecosystem works so that there's cooperation, and everything gets fed, I feel like an earth-based spirituality honors and recognizes the divinity that is Pachamama, that is this earth that we are gifted and blessed to be able to stand on, sit on, be a part of. It is bringing the lens of the holy and sacred into the elements that we would be fucked without. We need air, we need fire, we need water, we need earth, we need space. Those things are sentient. I think earth-based spirituality is really about acknowledging the sentience of all life, the divinity of all life, that everything around us is God. And if we can really hold on to that, we probably won't be treating each other as shitty as we do. If we can recognize that, oh, I am made of stardust, and I am a reflection of divinity, and you are a reflection of divinity, and that ant is a reflection of divinity, that we actually could, if we looked at the ant and watched the ant, we might be learning some great strategy from the ants about how to be in this world. Let me give a plug for the ants. I was in Florida with my god brother Marcus, and he was having the ants come in and kind of take over on the counter space and trying to find all the sugar in the house. So I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to kill them with this spray, I'm gonna go outside and make them a little offering. I'm like, let me bring the sugar out to you. So I created this little sugar tit, which was a little shell, a little clam shell, and I put all of my sweet things. I put some honey with raw almond and honey, and a couple of gummy bears, and put all that, lots of sugar, on this little shell, on the ground. And I walked away. And then I came back and I was like, oh shit, the animal something, the ant something, they took it. Oh my God, they just totally snatched it. But then I went and I looked closer at what was happening. And I got to see that they literally covered up the sugar under a pile of dirt. They disappeared it. They covered it up with a pile of dirt. So when my eyes went to look at it for a second, I was like, oh, it's gone. But it wasn't gone. It was camouflaged. They camouflaged it. And then of course, they're going to break it down and disassemble it and ship it back to wherever it needs to go, to the queen, to wherever. underneath the hidden guise of that dirt mound where, it's like nothing to see here, but we're going to get busy in the underground. And I'm like, that's brilliant fucking strategy. Thank you, ants. Thank you, holy, sacred, sentient ants. Thank you for that lesson, for that teaching. And if we look for it and we listen for it, we can find those lessons in those deep spiritual, social, political, ecological lessons all around us. If we stop to listen, everything that we need is on this planet if we know how to be in harmony and in right relationship. So I feel like earth-based spiritualities really center around that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you think it's just accessible to everyone to drop into that practice at any time?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's, for anyone to drop into that practice, there might need to be some Christian decolonization going on, there may need to be some things, but in any moment, we can pause and recognize the continuity of all of the life around us. I think in any moment we can stop and marvel at the rainstorm and the gifts that those waters bring us. I think at any moment we can marvel at the beauty that birds, bring us in their songs, and then take a moment and think about, wow, what's actually required for those birds to have healthy lives so that I can have healthy lives, so that they can, eat a seed and go shit it out somewhere else and have it grow, so that, I think we can tap into that in any moment if we get quiet enough and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we get quiet enough and listen, I think there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of distraction out there. In all of our advances, our technological advances, we've done so much to make life easier, but we've also done a lot to make us stupider. To make us, too busy to see what's real and holy and sacred right in front of us. So I think we can enter that anywhere, in any moment, it's just about stilling ourselves enough to see, to recognizing the divinity in oneself and the divinity in everything around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saw that you had written that your role, about your role as a spiritual midwife, emotional and spiritual midwife. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I use the term midwife with a lot of intention, because I feel like what midwives are really good at is helping and supporting that transition moment of coming from one reality in the womb out into a different reality, midwifing the birth process. So I feel like midwives are gatekeepers between worlds. They hold the gate at points of transition from one state to another. And I feel like we are all hardwired to heal inside of conditions that support it. The body knows how to heal. Like, we just see it when, we get a cut on our skin, and the process that goes to heal, and how the skin that's healed is even tougher than the original skin, like, we're hardwired to heal. That is our birthright. That is our inheritance as human beings, to heal. So we have that capacity inside of us. And then sometimes we need support transitioning from that one place to the next place. And midwives are great at supporting those transitions. Because oftentimes, just like a midwife, when we're in the labor of trying to move from one place to another, we don't always see everything. We literally, it's really hard to lean over and see what's happening. But you have someone who, from an objective, perspective, from a bit removed from the situation, can see something that you might not be able to see as clearly, can remind you, oh, push now. Oh, wait, slow down. Don't push. We need to dilate a little more. That metaphor is just so rich for me, to describe how I support people making those different journeys, from one state to another, from a space of dis-ease to a space of more healedness. So that's why I use that term, emotional and spiritual midwife, for the work that I do. It's like helping people move through those hard labors of transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we all have unique bodies and unique journeys through this world in embodiment. Do you have any stories you'd like to share about your personal journey in embodiment in your body?
Yeah. What stories do I have to share about my personal journey? Well, I really want to give, I'm thinking about Tana in this moment, who was my first Qigong teacher. And I'm thinking about what that practice, committing to that daily practice, what that has done to actually help me move deeper and deeper into myself from the inside out. And there's a word that's new to me, interospection, that I'm understanding it as that experience of actually being able to experience yourself from the inside out. Like, I can close my eyes and know exactly where my center line is. I can, because I'm literally feeling that from the inside out. I'm so grateful for the practice of Qigong to help me cultivate more and more introspection, if I'm saying that correctly.
It's interoception.
Interoception, that one. Sure. Yeah, it's been amazing. And it's really, I really want to shout out the power of repetition of practice over time. And it's kind of like how water changes things, over time, and with the consistency of the movement, water can smooth out the most jagged stone. And I feel like that practice of Qigong has really, in somatics we talk about, or I'd often get feedback with my own shape that, as someone who learned to be a forward leaner, projecting myself forward, maybe that's coming from the place of needing to prove myself, from, places of deep insecurity that I inherited. Or, that ski jump of like, Qigong has been such a tangible practice to literally help me align my body and shift into, what we talk about, we're trying to get to in centering, length, width, depth, connected to purpose. I give all praises to Qigong for that. And I got to watch my body over the course of 2.5, 3 years of being in a consistent daily practice. I have less back pain. I'm just so much more aware of the stance in my body that produces the pains that I have to begin with. just so much more awareness. We can't shift or change what we're not aware of. And I'm grateful for these years of consistent practice and loving myself enough to give myself that, a practice that has just honed and tuned in my awareness of like, what really am I doing in any given moment? And how is what I'm doing supporting my health or supporting breakdown, in my body? So that's been a remarkable journey, just to come more and more into myself. And I think another part of my embodiment journey has been learning to embody my sense of power, a sense of personal power that feels like I only was able to connect to that by sourcing my power physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so I think that's been a large part of my embodiment journey that has just been so potent. I can feel myself getting shy around that topic. So I think there's probably more to share, but that's what I have for now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How has music and singing been part of your healing journey?
Oh my God. Well, shout outs to my mama. She is an ancestor. But I think she gifted me primarily my voice. But I just found out recently that I think I inherit my vocal gifts, not only from my mom's side of the family, but also my dad's side of the family. So I think I've been doubly blessed. Song is everything. Song is everything for me. It is, there is nothing that lights me up more than to use my voice, and the literally playing with the sound and the frequency. I think about biblically when I came across that story about the voice and the power to chant down the walls of Jericho. I'm like, oh, there's something to that. Oh my goodness. Like, frequency, vibration is everything. And our ability to literally shift reality with the power of the voice and the power of song, to literally move interdimensionally from one world to the next through the power of voice and the power of song. Sign me up. Sign me up. And I've always known the power that's in my voice, like that. I've known of that for a long time. I can't remember a moment when I wasn't aware of that. I can remember moments of being in awe at my mom standing next to me and singing, and these boring ass kingdom songs that we had to sing from Jehovah's Witness context. And she would put like the most amazing operatic spin on it, It would be like she would just rip it with this beautiful operatic vibrato. And it's so powerful to witness a moment of like working on someone in body work, and seeing this place that they come to like right up against their edge, where something just comes to me and it's like, sing this now. And I listen and I open my mouth and I let that tone or that frequency come out, and I watch it just explode the dam or melt away what was needed to be melted away, or and sometimes I think it's the love that comes through my voice when I'm singing. Sometimes I think it's about the actual frequency or the tone itself that's doing something healing. But yeah, I think it's so deep in me that I don't even always know how to talk about it. It's like, how do you talk about your skin when you've just been in it, your entire life? Um, but yeah, yeah, it's a significant part of my healing and my resource, and a significant part of what I've been able to offer and share to others for the sake of their healing, and resource. And then there is nothing sweeter than being able to lift my voice in concert with others and find those harmonies that no single voice can come to, that juicy gathering of sound. Just one voice can't do it. And where you get to go in like harmony, the resonance, what it creates, it opens portals. It does shit that I can't even wrap my tongue around in this moment. Oh, but it's deep medicine. It's deep medicine, and it's medicine that I use frequently and passionately. Yeah.
Yeah, a question I really like exploring and thinking about is how music is connected to the movement for liberation. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always been a soundtrack to liberatory moments. Like, I think about the music that surrounded the liberation efforts in South Africa. I think about the music that was used on plantations to coded in that music were messages and signs that helped people escape their enslaved conditions and relocate to places where they could find and begin to feel into a life of more freedom and less bondage. I think about the Haitian Revolution and what was the music that accompanied that movement to kick the French out in that moment. Yeah, I think that songs are such a deep and potent way of expression and a way of unifying masses of people. You can unify an entire collective body through syncing up through song, to come together inside of a message or a worldview or a declaration of freedom, of hope, that gets captured in those songs that we sing together. So yeah, I think there's a non-separable connection between music and liberation movements. Every culture has its story about that. Every culture has its examples about what song and collectively coming together with song has made possible. I don't think many of my enslaved ancestors would have gotten through the toils of what chain gangs had to go through, what toiling in the sun, these giant metal projects to create the railroad systems that we benefit from, getting our goods and services shipped or our own transportation. Like, that was harrowing work. And song carried them. Song carried them. I'm just thinking of soldiers marching into war. There's usually a song and a rhythm that they are moving to. Song helps to harmonize and gather the collective body together, to harmonize a collective body so that people can move as one. That's what music can do and has continued to do, and I think will always do. backwards and forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts or stories you feel called to share right now?
Not in this moment. I think I'm really good at answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta lean into my human design, wait for
Mm-hmm.
the invitation.
Mm-hmm.
But
hearing this thunder rumbling in, I wonder if it's coming.
I think it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you've been finding pleasure in your body lately?
Nude sunbathing is always a staple. There's nothing sweeter than a warm, sunny day of just taking in that vitamin D directly from the rays of the sun, and a nice oiling prior to that, whether that's with sesame oil or a little shea butter. Pleasure in my body feels like my practice when I'm literally working those 12 joints in my body, and how I get to feel on the other side of that, the clarity and the flexibility that I get to have access to. That's one of my delights that happens in my body. Singing is such an embodied thing. So whenever I raise my voice to sing, that's a way that I'm experiencing pleasure in my body. Cuddling and snuggling. I have an excellent cuddle snuggle partner. And that is just a delicious way of, co-regulating, co-harmonizing. She has an incredible scent. I'm very olfactory motivated. And so just letting my nose smell everything on her body brings my body immense pleasure. Yes. Yeah, those are a nice relaxing bath is always a good pleasure moment. And then, masturbation. Like that is an all-time body favorite, for much enjoyment and pleasure. Yeah, I love walking. I love walking in nature, whether that's, there's a bridge here that I love to walk that crosses over the Connecticut River, and then onto a path with, beautiful willow trees and other trees on each side. And I love walking in nature. I'm not much of a hiker, I don't like the incline, but give me a nice spread out, relatively low, straight path. And there's just so much joy in walking and listening and watching everything in nature. Nature brings my body a lot of pleasure. Yeah.
And what's your favorite thing about your body?
Wow. I love the softness of my body. I feel like my body, I'm blessed with great texture. Great texture and great, I just feel like I have a wonderful amount of fat on my body. That's just, my body's soft and it's squishy, and I love bringing people in to share in the softness of my body, and I love feeling and admiring my own softness of my body. I really love my feet, so I love decorating my feet with a nice pedicure, and I love glitter on my toes, so that I just, in moments where I'm bored or needing something, I just get to look down at my feet and give myself a little joy. I love my lips. and my mouth, and the beauty that gets to come out of that. I love my face for the myriad of facial expressions that I get to embody when I'm attempting to express myself. Like, I love using my face lavishly to communicate. Yeah, I'm learning to love my legs. I'm learning to love my legs. They are so long, and yeah, I've just been more in my adult life, falling in love with my legs. Yeah, I love my skin. I love my skin, and that's been a journey, especially as a child of the South, surrounded by lots of white supremacy and anti-Blackness. I actually ended up having to make a commitment. One of my first commitments in my somatic embodiment path was I'm a commitment to being in my skin without apology. And that commitment covered many covered many points of entry. But ultimately it was about learning to just genuinely appreciate the skin that I'm in. The color, the texture, yeah, all of it. And that's been a beautiful journey, and I'm really happy and proud with where I am today in this moment, on that journey. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Any other closing thoughts?
Not thoughts, but I do have a song that I want to leave. And it's a song that I sing often, and I think it's just a song that needs to be sung by everyone so that we can remember the importance of the wisdom that's in this song. And it's an ancestor song, and I want to give credit and props to this brother that I met in the Bay, Adelaja, who taught me this song. But I know that he got it from somewhere else, because before I even met him, I was singing a different version of the song. I just really appreciate the version that he brought to me. It's an ancestor song. Oh, I hear the voice of my ancestors calling me. I hear the voice of my ancestors calling me. Wake up, wake up. They say wake up, wake up. Listen, 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 listen. May the rivers all flow clean, and may the mountains be unspoiled. May the air be pure, and may the trees grow tall, and may the earth be shared by all. Oh, I hear the voice of my ancestors calling me. I hear the voice of my ancestors calling me. Wake up, wake up. They say wake up, wake up. Listen, 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 listen.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So where can people find out more about you and your work? Maybe you don't have space for anymore with your two clients a day.
Exactly, that part. I don't have a website. I don't have really a social media presence. I choose to spend my time differently than having those things and then feeling obliged to be on a device and checking them all the time. Like, I'm really trying to limit my screen time in that way. So email shamanasomatics@gmail.com is one way that you can get in touch with me. But I really hold myself as a community-based practitioner. And I've felt blessed to be able to move in a way where I haven't needed those things, that my work speaks for itself, and I have a good word in community, and the people that need to find me, the people who there's mutual medicine, and that I have medicine for, they find me through word of mouth, through divine appointments. So I really don't have a website or any place or space, and my son is probably, if he's listening to this, he may be rolling his eyes and saying, this will be my life project to support my mom, to get her something that people can land on. But in this moment, if it's a divine appointment, we'll find each other.
So grateful I had a divine appointment to find you.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Thank you for gracing the internet with your presence.
Yes, oh my goodness. Thank you for doing this project. And I'm excited to hear the many other people that you got to interview for this podcast, and just to be a part of the wisdom that's being collected and shared. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, going to close our session. Sealing the magic and the medicine.
Ashe.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or on YouTube. And feel free to leave any questions, other topics you'd like to hear about in a future episode, or anything else you'd like to share in the comments. Please leave a review for the podcast. And if you'd like to go deeper in the conversation, in our inner circle, you can join our Infinite Earth Body Collective Patreon. You can see the link in the show notes. And thank you again so much for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.